Today, we have a mindset topic. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Every month, we do a mindset topic, we do a women's health topic or a practical topic. And then we also often do a guest interview where we're talking about other things that I don't know about. And so we're getting into the swing of that. So they're only rare at this point in time, but welcome. I love sharing all of this stuff. I love connecting with like-minded health and fitness professionals and creating a space and a platform where everything is just together. Because for me, I feel like I'd have to go to so many different places, all this different stuff that I wanted to learn and wanted to bring it all to one space. So that's my goal. That's what the goal is around the podcast. So if you have anything that you would like me to talk about or people you'd like to be interviewed on here or content ideas for whatever it is, please send me a message on my Instagram, or you can send me over an email. All the links are in the show notes. Or if you'd like to be on the podcast and talk about something you're passionate about in the sense of exercise, phys, or personal training around women's health, whatever, anything really, let me know, because I'd love to have you on here. If you have a question, send me over the question. All suggestions are welcome, because this is ultimately for you guys and sharing my passion, and also being that space to share other people's passions. So let me know. Anyway, today we're talking about fear. Now, the reason I talk about the mindset side is because if you are working for yourself, this mindset is the biggest barrier to progression. Because if you have poor mindset, you have poor belief in yourself, self-esteem issues, you're not really progressing in a sense of self-development, this will hold you back. I've been there. I'm there all the time, because there's always new levels of this. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Fear at all different levels, because I used to wonder if the feeling of fear would ever just go away. Like, when will I not be scared? When will I not be worried? And the fear of working for myself maybe was something that I was always worried about, like having to make an income, the fear of failing. What if this doesn't work? Like, what am I going to do? What's my backup plan? The fear of like, what if other people judge me and they think I'm an idiot for trying all these things, which also surprisingly was more fear around people who were in the industry rather than randoms or my friends. So if you feel like that, I've been there. But I've come to realize that this fear never, ever goes away. It just appears at new levels or presents itself in new ways. And this was something that came up in the mentorship call last week. So every month inside the mentorship program, we do 2 live group calls that are a lot more discussion and chatting. And secretly, like, we do all these exercise, prescription, practical components. And then at the end, we talk a whole lot of random stuff, depending on questions that come up or thoughts, or we just chat and connect. So it's really, really awesome. I actually quite love it. But we were chatting more about the business and side of things last week, and using social media as a way to build brand awareness. And there are quite a few of the mentees inside the program who are wanting to work for themselves, or maybe they want to have some sort of little side gig that's theirs, like a little hobby, maybe that's education based, or wanting to build a side hustle that might turn into something for themselves. And part of their goals around this is to start using social media to build an audience. And this has been a goal for a lot of them. Well, I mean, they told me this goal at the very beginning of the program, which when I recruited them was February, and it is now June, and they're still saying, I really want to think about starting my social media. So it's still there. And there's this fear, huge fear around jumping in and getting started. Now, I'm just using the fear around the social media as an example, because I feel like a lot of people could resonate with that, especially if you're not already on the platform right now, or maybe you're new to the platforms. If you've been using social media for ages, you probably won't feel this right now, but you may understand this feeling from earlier on. But I'm referring to the fears that you have around anything that you might be imagine doing or wanting to do, but aren't, because you are scared. So that's what we're talking about, but I'm using the social media as an example. This call is not about social media, but we will have content about social media. Anyway, I opened up on the call about a few things that I had planned for her education and the podcast, and how this was like the new level of fear for me, and I felt super nervous, and I'm worried about executing some of the things. And I think it came as a shock to some of them because I have like such a strong character on my social media platforms and inside the mentorship, because those levels of fear don't really bother me anymore. I know, feel confident in myself to do those things, and they're just work tasks now for me and part of my daily life. Whereas, there used to be fear around these things. But I want to take you back to a few big moments of fear in my career that I have surpassed. There's a couple of them, but the first one, which, believe it or not, is going to come as, maybe it might come as a shock to you, I don't know, but talking to the camera on stories on my Instagram page. Like, oh my God, I never spoke to the camera in my face-to-face clinic. So this was like before I went online a while ago, like years ago, because I was too scared of looking like an idiot, like on the platform and being judged by people on the platform. I had to really learn how to be comfortable with this when I moved online. Now, I actually had like a bit of a YouTube channel going before that, and I felt so much better doing the YouTube thing because I could edit. And I was like, oh yeah, if I look like an idiot, I can just like chop that bit out, and it didn't feel like live. Whereas the stories thing, man, like I had to really learn how to be comfortable with this when I moved online. Like, I cannot stress that to you enough. Like, I did not do any live stories. I was like, no one's going to see my face. I don't want to hear them talking. I would video things like 10,000 times and then delete it and then never post it anyway, because I just felt like an idiot. Now, I don't fear talking on stories like I used to anymore, but I will tell you that I do fear videoing myself in public, like walking around in the streets or something, and random people seeing me talk to my phone. For some strange reason, this one just really still worries me. And I think it's because maybe the generation that I grew up in, like at school, if we took selfies and videos of yourself, like you were labeled as like, oh, that person loves herself, she's taking selfies. Like, it was such a bizarre thing to do. You just never did it. It was so weird. Like, kids these days have no idea how easy they have to take a photo of themselves and have all these cool photos and selfies, but we never did it. So I don't know if this is something this is still somewhat of a fear for me. And if you'll notice on my Instagram stories, I'm usually in the bush, like away from people and no cars are around. Or if they are, I've actually stopped recording in the street and like deleted it and then refilmed it. So yeah, don't be fooled by social media and what people feel confident in doing, because I tell you what, I'm still nervous to video myself in public. And even in front of my partner, sometimes I'll be here in this office and he's outside and I'll be like videoing, except he'll hear me and he thinks like, what's up, babes? And I'm like, oh my God, he thinks I'm talking to him. And I get nervous and I delete it. So sometimes I even make sure no one's home when I'm videoing myself. So if that makes you feel a little bit better about content on social media, I still get nervous, but in a different way. I don't feel nervous about posting it anymore and being in the platform. I just feel nervous about other people looking at me while I'm doing it. Anyway, not so much for fear, I guess, but nervous. So that's the first one. The second one is moving online as a practitioner. I had a huge fear around if this would even work. And was I able to actually build anything of this? And would it generate an income for me at all? Like, I had a massive fear around doing this because it was not conventional. Like, I just wanted to do it because it resonated with the lifestyle that I really wanted to have and what we were doing as a couple, like moving around quite a lot. And I wanted to be able to help all these women that I couldn't see because I didn't live near them. So that was a huge fear, but we jumped in and we gave it a crack and we're still here. So we're doing okay. The third one was like diving into the education space. So this was the next level of fear, was teaching other professionals that knew a lot more about health than my one-on-one clients. And I think this is such a big thing in the social media space, because a lot of the people that I spoke to inside the mentorship were saying like, they all could understand how it felt like when they're writing content or putting a post together, they are so much more nervous about someone else that's in the field jumping on and being like, oh, this is wrong, or, oh, that's not what I would do, or like judging or fear, getting judgments from that. So I think that's that was a really big fear for me. And I still get a little bit nervous about that and who's going to come inside the mentorship program and what their level of education is. But I feel like you always just, like, I have this level of like, oh bro, overanalyzing everything and like being so much more scared of everything than I should be because I read into everything. So I'm working on that one. But that was the level of fear that happened before I started the mentorship. It took me a lot of like guts, let's say, to like dive into that. So that was the new level. And then the next level of fear after that was starting the podcast and getting that up and going. And now, like, I don't really worry too much about doing this and like sharing this content because I really enjoy this. So these were all levels of fear for me that I had to overcome to move in the direction that I wanted to go. But when I look back at each of these points in time, I don't have the same fear I had around this anymore. Like, I have fear, but it's just a new fear based on the level I'm at in myself, in a sense of self-growth and personal development, but then also in my career and like where we're at with the career and what the goals are around sort of my business. So there's always going to be a level of fear when you are trying to do something that is outside the current level of you. It's like a new threshold and of what feels comfortable and what feels scary to do. But one thing that I've really noticed that shifts around sort of the leveling up of each fear is this new feeling that accompanies the fear of trust within yourself. Because if you have pushed past something that is scary, it's probably turned out to be okay. And if it didn't, then it probably directed you onto a different pathway that you didn't expect. And maybe that's worked out. And because of this, you start to feel like you trust your own ability to make a decision, execute on things, and that you actually will be okay if it doesn't work out because you've done it before. It's like this evidence of success. You've had all this stuff happen. You worried about it. You feared it. You did it. It worked out. So now you're like, oh, I actually did it. Worked out okay. So I feel like that's been something that I've really picked up on. Now, there are a few parts to coping with fear and developing this trust within yourself, especially when you're in those early phases. If things didn't, let's talk about them. Diving a bit too quickly. Now, number one, if things didn't work out after you made a decision to do something, then maybe you just gave up too quickly. This kind of self-development work, where you're working through barriers and levels of yourself, is really difficult to do. And many people get too scared too quickly, can't cope, and they give up. And maybe that's what you did. So if you're saying to me like, I've always tried things and I always fail, maybe you gave up too quickly. Problem number one. The second thing is that maybe you haven't won enough at the small tasks to actually trust your ability to execute or follow through. For example, you set the bar way too high. Maybe it was even a bit unrealistic and you failed. You have done this multiple times. So now you have this ingrained belief that everything you try or you do, you never succeed at or actually follow through to the end. So that's a belief issue right there already holding you back. But outside of personal development, this is really common in the world of like weight loss, for example, or even in rehab settings and following through with doing the exercises and actually getting results. So you'll have those people that are always like, oh, I just never ever follow through with my rehab exercises, so I'm not going to sign up. Or I don't ever lose weight. I just fluctuate all the time because I lose a little bit and then I put it back on because I never stick to something. I'm so bad at this. Same thing, you're almost building evidence of failing rather than building evidence of success and building that trust in yourself. But the key to building trust in yourself is making promises to yourself that you actually keep and actually do. So promising yourself that you will start a social media page and posting content and then actually doing it will begin to build that trust. And over time, you can set bigger goals around moving forward and you will have this level of trust in yourself to actually do it. So when the fear then pops up around it is much easier to push through. So those small wins every single day, do 5 minutes of exercise versus I'm going to run 5 kilometers and you've never run before. Like those small little wins every single day of like small little tasks and goals will help you start developing this trust within yourself that when fear pops up around something, you'll be able to say, you know what, I do this. I've done it before in different scenarios. This is just the next level. It'll be okay. So it's 2 things, first of all. Third one, maybe you're not asking yourself the question, what is the outcome if I let fear consume me and I don't do X, whatever the task is or whatever you're trying to do? Am I actually okay with that outcome? Is that what I want? Because telling yourself, yes, I'm okay with staying exactly where I am, is a massive slap in the face sometimes that generates that little bit of motivation to push through the fear. So for example, the mentorship. That was a really big shift for me, personally, sharing what I'm passionate about with other health and fitness professionals. And I honestly feel like I asked myself the question in a 2 years' time or in a year's time, and I'm still sitting here saying, I really want to provide some really good quality education for other people who want to learn about women's health. Am I going to be okay with still saying that I would like to try and do this? Or like, how will I feel if I'm still not doing it and I'm still talking about doing it? And that for me was like, you know what, you can't do that, because in a year's time, you're going to slap yourself in the face going, I should have done it a year ago. And I bet you can resonate with this at some point of thing you tried to do within your life. So those are a couple of things that can really be key parts to coping with fear and developing that trust within yourself. So if you are currently in a position where you want to move in a certain direction, but with this comes a level of fear that is actually holding you back from actually executing, I have a couple of recommendations for you. Number one, start following through on the promises that you make to yourself. This will be trust, will develop that trust within yourself to do things that are a little bit of a push for you. So it doesn't matter what it is, anything. Wake up early. One that I still struggle with because I hate getting out of bed and I sleep terribly. But if you're going to say I'm waking up early, you should probably wake up early and do it. Number two, ask yourself the question, am I okay being where I'm at right now in a year's time because I'm too scared to try? That is a wake-up call. And number three is put past experiences into perspective to help you see that the fear you have around this will in fact go away. What things were once scary that are no longer scary for you, that moved you in a certain direction and worked out well for you. So when I wrote my list down of things that I was like really scared at or feared doing, like to tell you about, so like the talking on stories, I kind of look back now and I'm like, that's so funny. I didn't want to talk on stories. And now all I do is talk on stories and record myself on video, obviously alone, because that's still a fear. Maybe I'll set that as a goal for myself, but I want you to do the same. Think about this evidence of success that you've already had. Maybe you just haven't recognized that there's parts of you or parts of your life that you were really worried and feared. And then now it's like not even a problem. Like, okay, number one, I feel like every first-time mum is fearing having a child. Like they want one, but they're like, holy shit, what if I don't know what I'm doing? What if I ruin my child's life? And there's all this fear around it. But when you have the child and you start to move into it and you just do it, I bet you probably don't fear that as much as what you used to. Maybe there's new levels of fear. So if you have kids, maybe think about that. If you don't have kids and you're like me and you don't understand that, pick something else. But those are three things that I really recommend you start doing. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Ask yourself the question, are you okay to still be here in a year's time because you're too scared to try? And three, put past experiences into perspective to build evidence of success for yourself. Go ahead and cope with fear or move beyond it, shall we say. Well, that is it for today's mindset episode. Make sure to subscribe, share the show if you find this helpful. I'd really, really appreciate any reviews that you want to chuck on here. I'd really love to reach more like-minded health and professionals to really create a strong community for this and support for each other rather than like fearing each other's judgments. So if that's you, I would really, really love it and appreciate it if you did share this with anyone that you think would find this also helpful. So thank you so much for being a supporter. Really appreciate you, if you're especially still listening all the way to the end here. And I hope you have a fabulous day wherever you are. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.